And I just wanted to be like everybody else. And so this sounds horrible, but I would fake my hearing tests because back in the day, there wasn't a separate room. They sat right next to you, and I would watch them push the button, and then I would push my button. So I would know what sound it was. My name's Kitty Belsly. I am from Mackinac, Illinois, and I am a culinary arts instructor at Bloomington Area Career Center. Well, I've always had a hearing problem. So it was just a matter of what I was hearing. I wasn't hearing as much as I was supposed to be hearing. Because I have a genetic disorder, I kind of put it off because I didn't want to get hearing aids because I was so young. But by the time I got into my mid-20s, I could tell it was really hurting because I missed out on a lot of things that I should have heard. How to say words. I always say this. You may say cat and I might think you said hat. Or like when you're singing a song and you thought it was saying this the entire time, and then when you hear the real words, you're like, oh, that makes much more sense. So you got to kind of laugh at yourself too, but embarrassment, get stereotyped a certain way. If you think about the day and age now, like glasses, take for instance, are fun, they're cute, they're trendy, they're stylish. Hearing aids, I mean, they've come a long way since then, but not so much like to say that it's a part of your ensemble. And so it was just one more thing you had to put on, one more thing you had to remember, one more thing you had to be careful about. And I just wanted to be like everybody else. And so this sounds horrible, but I would fake my hearing tests because back in the day, there wasn't a separate room. They sat right next to you, and I would watch them push the button, and then I would push my button. So I would know what sound it was. Because my mom has a cochlear implant. She's basically deaf without it. And I just didn't want it. But when I got into the work world, it was too hard. Like it was a struggle for me. And I think I just missed out on a lot too. You know, I just didn't hear. But it was when I was in between jobs and I was working in an office on a phone, I couldn't hear. I could not hear. And that was the tipping point where I was like, I have to do something about it now. My boss, I believe, said something to me. And because I was supposed to be interpreting what he was saying on the phone, and I could not hear. And I was constantly asking him to repeat himself. And I could tell he was getting annoyed and frustrated. And finally, I had just said to him, I said, well, I have a hearing problem. And I think that was the first time I really admitted it out loud to somebody, especially like at a workplace. He said something about, well, maybe you should go in and see about getting your hearing tested. And oh, I'm sure I probably was upset, like crying upset. Because to me, it was just like anybody else getting told there's something wrong with them. And now you have to deal with it. And then on top of it, it was the money, you know, that you have to figure out how to come up with that. I remember going to the appointment and they told me, I think at the time for a set, it was somewhere between $2,200, $2,500 maybe for the set. And my mouth just dropped because I was just out of college. I was just working. I mean, I was lucky to be making that a month and then paying my bills. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And that's how Bloomington-Normal Audiology found a grant. And the grant paid for my hearing aids the first round. I'm sure I probably shed a few tears when they told me they found a grant as well, you know. So that they went out of their way to try to help me because they knew the kind of situation I'm in, everybody's in. So it was a good feeling to have somebody that at least kind of introduced you to it, even though I've been around audiology my whole life. Again, I was, faking my hearing tests, because I didn't want to get any. But just to know that they had my back and they were trying to, figure out the best remedy to the situation as possible. So, well, like anyone who gets new hearing aids, it's not like when you put them in, yes, you can hear, but when you're sitting in an office, it's a little bit different because it's very enclosed in here. So you hear great. When you get out in the real world, that's when you have to really test them out and adjust. And that's what can be frustrating. I'm past that point now. Like, I expect that every time I get new hearing aids. But I know getting them right from the beginning, it was like, is this how it's going to be? Because I can't do this, Like, we're sitting in a restaurant, and I am not joking. It almost made me feel like I was losing my mind, because in the background, I could hear, I'm guessing it was 50 feet away. In the background, I could hear the refrigerator running. This is a person who doesn't hear. And I could hear the refrigerator motor running, but I can't hear the person in front of me. That's how crazy it can get. I always tell people, just keep, going outside, be around people, figure out, write down what's working, what's not, because they can adjust them and get it right. I think that was the biggest thing, was trying to figure out how I should be hearing, because when it's not right. And then you think when it is. And then after, a while, you're like, yeah, this is right. Or no, I got to get it tweaked a little bit more. But I also remember when I first got them, I would never wear my hair back. I always wore my hair down. Even though I have my hair down now, that's not the reason. I'm more of an advocate now for telling people about hearing aids. I definitely am not embarrassed at all. In fact, I live by a lake, and so we go on the boat a lot. And I always tell people, don't splash me, don't jump by me. I got hearing aids. Unless you want to buy my new pair, I'm up for one. So I wear in the canal, so you don't see them anyways. And I do that for a reason, because I have tried, and Natalie knows this. I have tried to wear behind the ear, and they just don't work for me. And the best analogy I can give you is people that wear bifocals say they have to have that line in their glasses, or they can't figure out, what they're looking at. That's how I started off with in the canal hearing aids. And so when I went to go try to do behind the ear, I was getting so much feedback that I can't concentrate. It's horrible for me. But for people who start off with behind the ear, their brain kind of adjusts to it. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, but for me, I could not get past that. We tried with so many different brands. So I think once you find a hearing aid that you're comfortable with, it's just time that allows you to get more comfortable and confident with what you're wearing and what you're listening with. But now, like, they do, Bluetooth, where your phone can ring and it can go straight into your ear. You can have TV sound go straight into your ear. With that said, though, like with my hearing aid I have right now, I have Oticon, and I will stick with this as long as I can and to make it work. So there's some things you got to give and take on. A brand that works for me is way more important than a Bluetooth right now. It's probably given my life back. Because, when you don't hear, you're missing out on conversations. You're missing out on important information. Being a teacher, it's noisy in my kitchen anyways. So chances are, a lot of times, and the kids know I wear hearing aids, and I always tell them, if I don't hear you, it's not because I'm ignoring you. I probably just truly didn't hear you. So they know that, and we have that conversation on day one. But it's one thing when you're not hearing because of noise and you know you're probably not hearing it, but it's another thing you're not hearing because you're just not hearing it and you don't know what you're missing out on. That's a big difference. And just being able to talk on a phone, that's huge. I know that was a big thing we struggled with, trying to figure out how to get my hearing aid to work with my phone. And nowadays I have an iPhone, and I would probably say that's probably a good fit with my hearing aid. I've been finding myself, I'd rather be on speaker because it's just, for me, it's easier to hear on speaker. So I've been doing that a lot lately. So you just kind of adjust. And I think it's as you get older, it scares me. I'm not going to be honest. As I get older, I always, when I come in for my tests, I kind of cross my fingers like, please tell me I didn't get worse. Please tell me I didn't get worse. I'm just trying to maintain as long as I can because I know I'm never going to get back anything. Honestly, I recommend BNA all the time to people. And in fact, I know there's several people that have come here. And I always tell them, like, tell them you know me. They know me. Trust me. So I always tell them, come here, ask for Dr. McKee, but she's got other audiologists there. So she can't, take on new clients. I know she's got other ones who can, but I just think it's very welcoming here. It's a very family-owned business. They've got many family members that work here. It's nice coming in and getting, hey, kitty, or, and somebody knows you're just not another number. So they get my humor. That's kind of appreciated. Let's see. Well, first of all, you got to find a good audiologist. And you've got to be patient because chances are you're going to, like the first hearing aid you try out, the chances that that's going to work, well, it's definitely not 100%. I'm not going to go out to that limb, but you're going to try probably a lot of different hearing aids, and what works in the office may not work in the real world. And I always say that. So you've got to try it out for several days in different environments to make sure it's going to work. And don't be afraid to tell them this isn't working, or don't be afraid to try to describe what you're saying, even though it's not coming out right, because it will get to that point. It just takes some time. Before I found these Oticons, it was a struggle. Like I probably tried I know for a fact, at least 2 other different brands, and nothing just seemed to be working for me. And I was getting frustrated, and this is not that long ago. So, but you got to keep the big picture in mind because it will be better in the end if you just stay true to yourself, be honest, and be patient. It's just one of those things. It takes time and it takes confidence, and you got to build up that confidence. Like I said, now, I don't think anything of it. I really don't. But it's hard. I was in my 20s. Well, let's all admit, it's not super attractive. It's not super sexy, So it was hard for me to accept that. And then it makes you feel like something's wrong with you, even though there is. But in a whole different sense, it just kind of wears on you. But then like I said, you just gotta give it some time. And then my confidence got back up there. And now it's like, I feel privileged to be able to tell people and, try to give them the confidence to do it. And I tell them, I'm like, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So I try to really put a positive spin on everything. At first, it's hard. That's why I always tell people, make sure you get the right hearing aid. And if it doesn't work, you keep going back. Because I've known people that tried hearing aids and they quit. They just quit on them because they got so frustrated. That's not a good audiology department then. Because if you're quitting because you can't find the right hearing aid, then you shouldn't be going there because there's got to be one out there that works for you. You just gotta be patient. You gotta have a good audiologist that understands you. So, right? I'm super picky. I just know what makes me feel like I'm hearing things right. And sometimes it's hard for me to say it, but Natalie's pretty good. Should I be calling you doctor? I call you Natalie all the time. I feel like I can always, at least she can figure out what I'm trying to say to her. And trust me, I mean, when you're trying to find words to describe what you're hearing, it's almost comical sometimes because you don't even know how to describe it. I hope Dr. McKee doesn't retire before I'm done wearing hearing aids or I'm in trouble. Besides that, I hope BNA is around for a long time because when I find something, I really don't like change. So it would be in her best interest just to stay here for me so I can get through this for the rest of my life.